saving life. Let's go.
So how do I make you a mod?
I need to go in there first.
Alright.
Sorry, I had to put into other place.
It says you're already a mod. Hello. Hopefully, people can hear me on on the stream. Yeah. My name is Matthew, and I'm here, part of the Glasgow University Game Development Society, and yeah, we're going to be talking about Intro to Music. This is part of a series of workshops. So yesterday we had 3D art. Today we have music, and tomorrow we have 2D art with Melania, and we'll have programming in Unity with Owen on Thursday. And this is all leading up to our game jam this weekend. And this is just to let beginners and maybe also people who are advanced to learn a little bit before they go into the game jam, gain some new knowledge, some new skills and tips to get them started, and hopefully hit the ground running at the game jam. So hopefully there's also lovely mods who are saying that they love me already. And AB is also incredibly nice so far, whoever AB is. So I guess I'll just kind of jump straight in. So today I'll be taking you through music and sound. A little bit of a disclaimer, which is I'm not the most experienced on sound design, so that will be probably less in depth than the music, which I have more experience with. But yeah, I'll be taking you through the basics of sound and music, so what they are first of all, and how we can use them, what we use to edit them, and then I'll show you a few things using some bits and pieces. And the great thing is that everything shown in this live stream should be free to use and free to access. Sometimes this can be a massive barrier to music production, unfortunately. But everything will be in here will be free, and can at least get you a little bit of a taste of what's possible. And if you get really interested, you can start to dive into lots of other software and tricks that even I haven't touched before in my life. So yeah, I think just first of all, we're just gonna go into a little presentation I have, and this will be the basis for what we do. And yeah, so let's go for that. Oh. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing right now. I've got a little Google slide set up, so music and sound. As I said, I'm not the most experienced with sound, so that's kind of in brackets here. But yeah, the first thing is 99% probability in my experience, or 99% of the time, music is done last in game jams, and this makes me sad because music is just as important in a game design as anything else. Playing games without music seems impossible in today's day and age, and it's a very integral part. And sometimes a lot of us jam to game music that we remember as iconic from our experiences of playing games. Stuff like I guess Undertale with Megalovania is a great example of that, and also Final Fantasy music, and for me sometimes Star Wars game music is quite iconic. So yeah, but it definitely should be a thing that's focused on a bit more, and hopefully I can show you how to do that and why it's worth doing that as well. So first of all, I'm just gonna talk about the sounds. So making your first sound, so we're going to go through understanding how to record and edit sound. First of all, I'm just going to go into what are sounds, how do I make sounds, how do you make sounds, and then I'm going to be talking about Audacity, which is a sound editing software. So first of all, we've got sound waves. So this answers the question of what is sound. They're just waves. I know it's amazing. You can't see them. You can't you can't physically grab them, but what you can do is listen to them. So this is just a quick visual to show you what sound is like. In the first picture here on the left, we've got just a normal wave, and it's showing how waves have a certain frequency. It's how fast they're going up and down, essentially. And with a higher pitch or a higher frequency, you get a higher pitch sound, and with a lower frequency, you get a lower sounding sound. There's also on the right here, it's showing just some terminology. Some of this you definitely don't need to know, like crest, antinodes, or trough, but knowing about wavelength and maybe amplitude and things like that are good to know, and good terms to use to describe sound waves. But what we're going to do is there's this great website which has been a little bit a little bit memed in the music community because it's very basic, but it's a really good entry point to understanding sound and music, and also making some music, which we'll do later. But we'll quickly look at this first one, which is sound waves. So we've got a piano here. Lower end of the piano goes lower notes, and the higher end of the piano is higher pitched notes. And you'll see here when I click on something, you can see a sort of 2D representation of the waves moving forward, and these are the sort of the intuition of how sound waves move through the air. But as you can see, if I go to the higher one, you can see that the dots get closer together, and they're also moving a bit faster. And I can also zoom in to show you this a bit better. And this is showing what the sine wave looks like in a 1D form. Up here you can see that it's moving much faster. And hopefully my mods can confirm that they can hear this. Hopefully. The comp audio too loud. Okay, I'm being told that the audio is way too loud. Sorry about that. Don't know exactly where to change that. Maybe this. But yeah, we'll see if that improves. If it's way too loud, the website is like 3 times louder than my voice. Okay, fair enough. Let me try to fix that real quick. I'm just gonna transition this. Okay. Right. Need to see if this is any better or not. If this is too loud. Yes? Okay, my mods. Okay, sorry about that. My mods are saying that it's all good now, so hopefully I'm not hurting your ears too badly. Anyway, right, we'll go back to the presentation real quick. So that was sound waves. Hopefully you could focus while your ears were being completely blasted. So apologies for that. But then we'll move on to oscillators, and I'll talk a little about different types of waves as well, which can be a very important thing in sound. So you can see here we've got this little character, hopefully, and he's got a frequency value. We already talked about frequency, higher pitch, lower frequency, lower pitch. So I can control that by moving up and down on this little guy. But he's also got a type of wave, so and it's a sine wave. So this is just one that's smooth, and it gives a very constant, nice sound. And this is typically the most common type of sound you hear in everyday life. So that's quite enough of that. What about the triangle? So a triangle is exactly what you think. It's a wave that's more jagged. It's got a much more harsh peaks and troughs, the tops and bottoms of the wave. And you can hear that it's perhaps more jarring in some kind of way. It's hard to describe these waves, but more sharp, more in your face, a lot less smooth and constant like the sine wave was. Then we have sawtooth. So this is one where it's kind of similar to the triangle, where it has a sharp edge, but instead of coming back up and down in the same way, it actually just drops down to the bottom. So it's always this sort of stepping shape. And it sounds pretty funny, but it also sounds a little a bit more high pitched, since we're not going smoothly down to the lower parts of the wave. It has a bit more of a screeching kind of sound. And the last one is a square wave. This is just one that doesn't actually look very square. It just has straight edges all the time, so it never progressively goes from the peak and bottom of a wave. So here it is here. And this usually sounds very digital, and that's because initially the first waves created by digital stuff was a square wave. Anyway, that's quite enough of listening to little characters scream at you too loudly like before. We'll just go back to the presentation slide. So this is one of the big points that if you're thinking how do you make sound, well, you just use anything. So you can use your voice. That's a very common one. It's very it can be quite a challenge to create a lot of sounds with your voice. You can just hit anything. So like maybe this table could give a thud. Sometimes the things in real life can really help. Like for example, a lot of the time punching sound effects are initially created by punching a pillow to give you a really nice thud. For example, another example of what I used was in one time I needed traffic noises, so I just went next to the road and recorded traffic for a few minutes before I got bored. So how do you make sound? Use anything, and you just record it, and you'll be able to manipulate it later. So this takes me into the first piece of software we're going to be using, which is Audacity. So Audacity is free. It's actually got a lot of tools embedded in it. It's not very limited like other free software. However, it's not the most intuitive to get used to and needs a lot of exploration. But if you spend the time to explore, you'll see that it really is a competent sound editor. So we are gonna have a look at it just now. So I'm gonna fire up Audacity. Hopefully it works. Yeah. Okay. And I need to figure out something to do, something to make. I'm not sure what yet. So basically, I'll give you a guide to Audacity first anyway. So up in the top left here, you have all your playback buttons. So this is when we actually record something, we can actually use that. We've also got a record button here. So I'll tell you what, we should. I'm gonna record something with my voice. I decided to record something. I'll record a cat meow or something. So basically, all I have to do is click this button, and it should hook up to the mic, which you can select here if you've got your own mic. But you can use a mic of any quality. I've got my own mic here, but it's not necessary. You can just use your computer mic. It just might not be as clean quality as a more professional or expensive mic. So yeah. I can click the record button here, and I'll do my meow. So let's see. I'm gonna put it here and meow into this mic. I wonder how this looks on streams. But here we go. Meow, meow. Okay, and I just clicked the stop button to stop recording. I maybe should change the stream to man meows at stream. I don't know, but we'll consider that later. Anyway, so you can see here the way Audacity represents your sound isn't exactly like a wave like we had before, but it's more about the shape of the sound and the volume of the sound. So here you can see I think maybe I had a little bit of noise in the beginning here. I'm not quite sure, we'll have to listen back to that. And then we have 2 clear meows, but you can see they're slightly different shapes because I must have meowed slightly differently. But you can see how even small differences in sound can create a very different shape inside of Audacity when you're recording it. So just going over the playback tools, we can just use this button to say, okay, let's go back to the start, and this is to go to the end. So we're saying go back to the start, and I want you to play. Meow. And you can hear, hopefully, my wonderful meow being played back to you over and over again. Considering my choices of sound effects to make now, but I've made my choice here. So yeah, so if we listen to, we can also pause it using this pause button. That's fairly self-explanatory, and stopping will go all the way to the back again. So yeah, if we try to, we can try to listen to this little bit of a sound at the beginning there, because I think it is just a random noise, but I'll listen to it again. Okay, so I think what it was is it maybe caught a click or something from around my flat. I don't know what from. Maybe from me moving or something. But either way, that's something we want, right? So if you're wondering, well, how do I deal with this? I've recorded this sound and it's got imperfections. Well, there are generally two ways to deal with it. The first way is you can just highlight it and press backspace or the delete button, and it's gone. So and now you can see that we've actually made our recording smaller. We've actually cut something out, and Audacity automatically puts them together. And so if we listen now, meow, meow, it sounds perfect. However, I don't know if any of you noticed, but right at the end here we also have the same thing. Now, cutting out noise is okay, especially for small sound effects. But as you might be able to tell from the ending here, and also you can perhaps see little dots here. There are some clicks or artifacts here that we probably don't want. And so, especially if you've got a really long recording, saying a minute plus, it would be really tedious to go out and cut everything out. So, for example, I used to use a certain technique during recording of podcasts to alleviate this, and I certainly didn't go through every single bit looking for the smallest of clicks and artifacts to edit the podcast. So there is another thing which we can do, and this is perhaps going a little too far ahead, getting ahead of myself, but it should be fine. It's something I think is very integral to sound editing. Is maybe the first thing you should do when you have something recorded, which is, and you have this little tab here called Effects. Now, Effects is where you can is the really powerful part of any audio or music editing software. It's where you can really change the sound that you're producing, and also, in our case here, clean up some things. So you can see a lot of effects here, like amplify. You've also got bass and treble, so maybe you want to lower the amount of treble in your recording and give it much more bass. And a few other common ones are obviously distortion. So say you say you have a guitar and you don't have any MIDI software or something to give it a distorted effect. Well, no problem. You can just record yourself on the guitar and use distortion to get that distorted guitar sound. Other things like graphic EQ, for again, it's very similar to bass and treble, about trying to eliminate certain frequencies. A reverb is also another one, getting another room, and we'll hopefully I'll have time to explore at least some of these. But the one we're wanting to talk about here is noise reduction. So this does exactly what it says on the tin. It reduces noise, and it can do it over massive amounts of audio that you have recorded, and can be a lifesaver. So if I open up the noise reduction initially with nothing selected, it's like, hello, you need to get a noise profile. So what it means by that is to remove noise, you need to give it a piece of noise to quickly understand, and it will programmatically eliminate everything. So first of all, what we need to do is get something like this noise here that we don't want. It's just clicks and everything else. It's not my voice. And we want to highlight it here. Then we go to effects and we go back to the noise reduction. And you can see here I now have the full window, and it has two steps here. It says select a few seconds of noise, so Audacity knows what to filter out. So I just click this get noise profile, and it should in theory get the noise profile. Then what I want to do is Control A and select all of my audio here, and I want to go back to it because it hasn't actually removed any of the audio yet. Then we go back to it, but now it already has the noise profile, right? So now we go to step 2. And we want to say how much noise do we want to filter out. Now there is one drawback to noise reduction which you need to perhaps be very careful about, which is if you reduce the noise too much, you can start to really dampen the sound and not make it sound so nice and vibrant. That's because it's not perfect. It's trying to get an audio profile and remove bits, but it might inadvertently remove bits of stuff that you actually wanted, just because it's somehow similar to the noise you had. So here you can do noise reduction. So how much do we want to actually get removed from this? And the sensitivity. So how sensitive do you want the noise reduction to be? And then the frequency smoothing. So more frequency smoothing will cause your sound to thinking of how to explain this. More frequency smoothing will make the changes in frequency much less, and so that's what I mean by it dampens the sound. So yeah, and so I can reduce that. So in my experience, the best way to deal with this is actually to I don't actually mess around with any of these settings. I just leave them as they are, and I reduce the sound. And if I can still hear noise and things I don't like, then I'll just do the whole thing again. And that way I'm doing it in increments that I know I won't overdo it. So yeah, so I can then press OK. And you can now see in the noise profile, all those bits have gone away. And you can see there was also little dots here which have gone away. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite got this because it probably has quite a different sound profile, because this was my click and it wasn't similar to whatever else I was doing. But I'm just going to delete that for now, since that's only one thing. And yeah, so we can go back and listen to this, and now hopefully there's much less noise, residual noise there, and just less things. I mean, I live in quite a trafficy neighborhood, so sometimes the traffic just gets into this mic because it's so sensitive. Anyway, so that was noise reduction, and we have 2 meows, and I just want to quickly make these meows shorter and more succinct. So I'm just watching my time. Okay, so we have these 2 meows, and we've just noise, and we've got all the noise out. So that's usually my step 1 when it comes to Audacity. Some people might do different things, and that's fair enough. Let's just explore some of the other things here. So there is something called an envelope tool, which is up here. So first of all, you have your selection tool, which is obviously to highlight things. Then you also have your this envelope tool. So what it's meaning by an envelope is this concept of a sound envelope. So how much you want the sound to really be impactful. So you can see here that everything's just a straight bar, and that's because it's just going to the maximum point in the sound profile, and that's the peak of volume in the audio. But I can change this to be slightly increased, and I can add points to it where I want it to be much quieter. So you should see the effect here. Meow. Meow. Just a little bit. And if I make that even more, hopefully, you can see it's starting to squish the sound. And so the first meow was fairly normal. Meow. And the second meow is somewhat muted in some way. Sometimes you won't really, especially with some of these sound effects, you won't really hear much of a difference, but when you start layering effects on top of each other, they start to really interact with each other and create a better sound. So, for example, if you're making a punching sound effect, maybe the punching of the pillow, like I said, that's how you could record a punching sound effect before. Maybe punching the pillow doesn't give enough of an impact, so you want to maybe make the start of it much more pronounced than the rest of the sound. I'm just going to leave that there to see what it all sounds like in the end. So this could be two different cats maybe meowing, even though it was me meowing the whole time. There's this draw tool, which I've never used, so we're just going to move on from that. Sometimes this time shift tool can be really useful. So we haven't really talked about using multiple sounds with each other, and the main reason for that is just time. I don't want to go in too deep, but you might be thinking, okay, so how do I move around all these things? Well, you just click on this little double-sided arrow, which is your time shift tool, and you just drag your audio along. So I could then add something in here, or cut together and move around things. So let's say, for example, actually, we use we're gonna reverse the sounds. What if you wanted to do that? Well, I could just take that and then cut it. So Control X and then Control V, and then if I want to put them all together, I just put them like that, and we should have meow, meow. Two different meows now. So yeah, what else is there? There's also some bars at the top. There's the cut, copy, and paste. I've not done much of these trimming things, but there's also obviously your mic and your audio headphone input. So where do you want your audio to go in, and where do you want it to go out? The sound bars at the top here are just volume bars, so they show you how much volume you're producing. So if I go back and play this, you should see that this hits a peak, and it just gives you an idea of the volume levels that you're having here. So yeah, okay, let's do just one or two more cool effects. That I want to show you and play around with. So what is the first thing we could do? I could show you distortion first of all. So a lot of these I don't know because I haven't messed around with the distortion too much. Usually in game sound design I don't use a lot of distortion, but distortion just makes your sound just messier and gives it usually a really grunchy kind of sound. So hopefully if I set a clipping level to like this or something, you can see our sound is now much bigger. It has a much louder sound. So hopefully, if we listen to it, meow, meow, and you can hear that especially the second meow, because it was so much louder, and had such a big envelope. It has such a big sound envelope now that it actually almost sounded like it was becoming buggy, like almost like the sound was breaking at the top. So we'll just listen once more. The first one is sort of normal, but in the second one we're starting to hit the volume levels that there are here. So yeah, so that's distortion. Let's see, what other effects do we have. The graphic EQ is usually a very useful one, and I wish it looked a bit better than this actually, because in other software it's usually like a graph, like a line. But you can see here it's got certain frequencies, and right now they're all at 0, so they're all treated equally. You can hear all of the frequencies if they occur. This doesn't mean that these frequencies always occur in your piece of music. For example, if you don't have a high pitched sound, then of course you don't have a 20 kilohertz frequency. So yeah, but let's say for example, I really wanted it to be more high pitched. I don't really have a high pitched voice, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just send all these to the top as much as I can. And hopefully this doesn't sound awful, but say I want to make it really, or bring out more of the high pitchedness, and I'm just gonna bring everything down that I can or can be bothered to. Okay, so yeah, and if I press OK, so now you see the sound wave has changed significantly. There's certain what we did was we basically reduced the volume of certain frequencies and brought the others up. So now we're hearing much more of the other frequencies and almost 0 of other frequencies. So if we listen to this now, it should be actually quite different. So there you go. One thing that was very interesting is because I brought up the higher frequencies, some of the higher frequency sounds was actually noise. So right at the end here, there's a little click. If I zoom in real quick, I should have said, to be honest, that there's also zooming in, which you can just, if you hold down Control, you can do this. There's also the magnifying button here, which you can zoom in and zoom out with a left click and a right click. But as we zoom into this sound, you can actually see that down here, some of these clicks that weren't even audible to me before have now come to the fore because they were high frequency and we've increased the frequency here. Funnily enough, since you saw in the graphic EQ that I brought up a lot of the high frequencies and took away a lot of the mid frequencies, it's actually quite funny that you can actually see that effect. There's almost this sort of layered effect here being shown. And so yeah, so this is sometimes a little bit of a battle. Like the more you mess with the sound, the more problems you could encounter. So it makes sense to try and keep your sound clean as you're building on top of it with all these effects. So I'm actually gonna delete that here. Is there any other effects? I guess reverb. Reverb is I'll show you reverb and then I'll show you wah-wah, because wah-wah is funny. But reverb, I would say, is probably one of the most used sound effects ever in sound design, and this is because it just adds more of a natural feel to it. So what is reverb? Reverb is when a sound bounces off walls. So for example, if you've probably experienced, if you're in a big room, a big hall, and you say something, there's much more of an echo. Whereas if you're in a much smaller area, there's much less of an echo and your sound is more crisp, your voice is more crisp, it's a lot more defined. But using reverb can make it sound a lot more natural. And so if I just highlight this stuff here and use reverb, you can see there's a lot of different aspects to reverb. I won't go into all of them, just to you can explore those on your own, but there is stuff like as wet and dry reverb. But what we're mostly looking at, I guess, is the room size. So here we're saying the room size is 75%. I guess 100% is a big hall. And I wonder if I use the preview. And so you can hear, I forgot to say there is a preview button as well, but you can hear that the meows are much more echoey now. And so if I lower the room size, it will sound less echoey, or obviously not as less echoey as I wanted it to be. So there's a little bit here of reverb, but not so much that it's very noticeable. But at the 75% range, it definitely is noticeable. So I don't know. Right now it kind of sounds like it's a little bit rainy because I can hear the clicks at the end. And also that it kind of sounds like it's being put on a tannoy right now, like it's some sort of cat propaganda. So yeah, it's kind of a funny sound that I think about it, but yeah, so yeah, so I'll just show you one last effect in Audacity. There's way more in Audacity that you can do. You can also add stuff, so maybe I'll add a tone. Let's just do a normal sine wave. Who's that? Uh-oh. That's not what I meant to do. Tracks. Sorry, I meant to say you should probably add a track before you do this, because you can add different tracks, and that's where audio mixing comes in when you're dealing with different sounds. But hopefully this works now. So if I generate, go to, where was I? Tone, a sine wave, and let's change the duration down to seconds. And can I change? Yeah, let's just do 10 seconds. I'll probably cut this anyway, so you can just see it's a normal tone sine wave. What I'm going to do is, since I talked about a tannoy, I'm actually going to cut this down and put it at the start here. So now if I bring these away, okay. Let's see how this sounds. So, again, this is just a small example, but so I guess that sort of sounds like a beep on a tannoy, but I could probably do a lot better. But anyway, the last thing I'll show you really quickly is a wah-wah. So we'll maybe apply it to this sine wave actually, because I quite like the cat sound for now. And where is it? A wah-wah. So a wah-wah is exactly how it sounds. It makes it very wah-wah-y. And yeah, it'll make this sound, you know, have a sort of wah-wah effect. It's kind of hard to explain without just hearing it, but you'll probably get what I mean. So I'll just apply it, and you can see like we have these sort of peaks in here now. So these are the wah-wahs, and hopefully now you can hear it. And yeah, so that is the sound. I think I will save this and export it so that hopefully Owen, who's doing programming, can on Thursday can use it. I don't know what weird game he's gonna make. It's definitely a bit of a low effort sound in my opinion that I've made. But yeah, you can just go to export audio or export whatever format you would see fit. WAV is uncompressed, MP3 is compressed, if you want to know about that. But I'm going to export it as a WAV, and I'm just going to save it on my desktop and call it tannoy cat, and save that. Yes, okay, I don't care about that. I don't care about the artist name. And hopefully I think that should have done it. So if I go all the way back, yes. So now if we listen to this, oh, whoops. And there we go. Yeah, that's a sound in Audacity. There's way more you can do, as you can see by the big list in Audacity, and I don't have the best experience with sound design, so unfortunately I can't give you a lot of advice on that. But usually messing around with the effects and just hearing what they do is usually the best way to learn sound and music design. It's just try something and see if it sounds good, and if it does, use it. So yeah, I'm wondering, are there any questions so far? Make a punch sound effect. I'm sorry, Patsy underscore. Make some sick beats. Godcat. I mean, Nikolai likes it. Maybe preview will make a graph. Maybe. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not the best with that testing. Anyway, I'm sorry I didn't make a punch sound or sick beats. My mods haven't been doing a good enough job in telling me what to do. But anyway, let's move on, I guess. So that's all I have for music just now. Sound just now. Again, there's probably a lot of resources to learn from and to explore. I'm sure a good Google search will help you on that. But Audacity is a great start if you want to start recording sound and editing it. It's probably the best free software there is out there. Anyway, so now music, which is something I do have much more of a background in. I only started really doing digital music around 2 years ago, but I have a lot of experience from music, from playing music back at school and learning about music, and I did a little at university as well, so it is somewhat of a more classical background, but I have been diving into digital music much more, especially during game development, and I just love it. Sometimes the possibilities are endless. So I've got here music, or could you call them collaborative sounds? So in some ways I was thinking, is music just sound design, but you make multiple sounds and bring them together? Probably. But what are we going to be doing? We're going to be doing a little bit of music theory, not too much, I promise. Even I don't know all the music theory in the world, and sometimes it's not even that helpful anyway. What should music do? So just a kind of quick thought or point on what I think music should do. What you should be aiming for when you're designing music, because sometimes that's hard to figure out when you're just starting out. And then we're going to be talking about some music attributes, so just certain aspects of music that you may want to think about changing or manipulating. We're going to look at Chrome Music Lab, which although I showed you all the I feel like Chrome Music Lab is maybe a bit of a maybe hated by my chat now, but it does have a really simple music maker, which it's, if you don't have any software and you don't want to get overwhelmed and you just want to make some music really quickly, it's probably the best way to do it, and that's free. And then we're also going to talk a little about musescore, which I've used a lot in my past, then we're just gonna and then I'm just gonna list some other kind of music editing software, music production software. So just a quick little bit of music theory. This might be overwhelming, and if so, just shut your eyes for a little bit and listen. But first of all, the key thing to know is just like sounds have a pitch and a frequency, we actually organize these pitches into notes. So and we give each of these notes a letter. Now you might be wondering why did we start from C and go to C again, and we only have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Well, the main reason for this is the frequencies that we've labeled the same letter are actually the same frequency, but just multiplied up. So when you play them together, they sound almost exactly the same, except one is just higher pitch. But they play in unison, as we call it. But this is just a little introduction here. So this is a little bit of sheet music, how you would see it on sheet music, and these are just all the notes here lined up for a treble clef, but I won't go into treble clef. Anyway, so if you see this, you should be able to work out what note it is, hopefully, at least with a little bit of practice. You can also see here I've got the piano keys and notes here, just to give you an indication, because that may be a bit easier for you to visualize and also use. I've got a piano here or a keyboard here that I can use. Then it may be easier to visualize than the sheet music notes here. And finally, the last really basic thing you really need to know is we give notes lengths. So here we've got a half note and a quarter note, and they have a length of 1 and 2, and that's just because music is divided up into beats. So we usually go 4/4 is a time signature, which you don't really need to know what it means, except that you just count in 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 over and over again. But so this quarter note is worth a 1, and this half note is worth a 2. So if I was doing half notes, I would do 1 2 1 2. But if I was doing quarter notes, I'd be 1 1 1 1. So that's just an example. And then you also have rests where you don't play anything at all. Yeah. All right. So that's enough. That's enough music theory. You don't need to know anymore. So maybe some of the more juicy points are, what should music do? And in my mind, it's tell a story. So I think the best explanation for this is when you're playing a game or you're watching a movie, the music is usually in parallel with the story. So it's if it would be really weird if in a horror movie you started hearing happy, funny comedy music or something. You want to hear something sinister or scary, something that really evokes the kind of horror-esque emotion within you. And so that's, if you're ever wondering, okay, what kind of music am I going to do? Well, just think about your game and think about how you would want players to feel in that game, how they would go through the story of playing your game. So, music attributes. Some of these I may have kind of already touched on, but the first thing is rhythm. So, like I said, music has notes which are for a specified length, and that usually gives you some rhythm. So, usually rhythm is only really thought about in the bass line, but it's also thought about in melodies. And let's see. Okay. So this is Chrome Music Lab again. You can mess around with this, but here we've just got a really simple beat, which is just the bass line is just doing over and over again. And so in this one, it's a little bit like a march, but it's not equidistant, for example. It's actually doing a double beat, like when it ends and comes back. So it almost sounds like there's some sort of execution music or something, right? Sort of ominous in a way, but not necessarily scary. So this is just an example of one rhythm. And hopefully it's not blasting your ears like last time. Is this the same person? Is it bugged? No, there we are. Okay, so they're using different instruments now. We've got these weird horned elephants, I guess. And we'll see what their rhythm sounds like. So it's a bit similar, but let's spice it up a bit. So I can click anywhere here and add little notes. So so this is a snare drum, and this is a hi-hat. So this is just a bit more rhythm, but we haven't really played anything in unison. So let's try that. So let's say I just want to make a perfect rock drum beat. Maybe something like this. So this is quite steady, it's quite equidistant, there's a little bit of extra sound with the snare drum, yeah. So this is just another rhythm. It's showing a little offbeat stuff here at the bottom with the double bass drums. So instead of being on the beat on these lines, they're a little bit off center. Anyway, that's enough about that one. Is this one any more interesting? Not really. And the last one seems funky. Anyway, so this is just a little intro to rhythm, and what the rhythm is, it gives you an intuition of it. And you can mess around with this in your own time. So let's just quickly get back. So the second thing is timbre. And here we're going to use a spectrogram, which is basically a fancy way of showing you how the sound looks and how it feels. So first of all, let's just do the wine glass at the end. And the wine glass inherently has a different sound, and sometimes these different sounds can be helped to emote things. So this might help you feel peaceful, for example. It's quite a fading in and out kind of sound. It's not very sharp, as you can see. It's very smooth in these waves. And then we have a modem, which has some very sharp sounds, but it's also a little bit noisy, right? You can see a little bit of differences in the music here. And we'll stop listening to that. Here's some birds. They have very distinct peaks. They're very sharp, and they stop very quickly. There's not a lot of echo. So yeah. Is there any other interesting sounds? I guess the drum machine is extremely specific. But you can see that the snare drum here has a sort of washed out kind of effect here at the end. And the last one I guess I'll show you is the trombone. Anyway, so that's just giving you an insight into timbre, and what that is just different sounding instruments, different kinds of sounds, and these can help you maybe create a little bit of an edge in your music. If you find a flute is too strong, maybe, or not strong enough, maybe you want to use a piccolo, which is really high pitched and punchy and has a very direct sound. Okay, so the next thing is harmonies. So I talked a little bit before about the notes. If they're labeled the same, they have the same frequency but multiplied up. Well, it turns out you don't need to have the same frequency multiplied up, but you can also have it almost partially multiplied up. There are certain frequencies that work better with each other, and these create harmonies or harmonics. So this is just the basic one. There's not really much harmonics here, but you can hear almost two tones in this, and they're coming together in harmony. And I'm just showing different pitches here. So harmonies can be very useful in terms of chords. I won't go into chords too much, but it's something you can look into, and these can usually give you a starting point for your music and make it sound nice, rather than something that doesn't really harmonize well together. However, I will say that usually music that's just completely harmonized and perfect usually doesn't sound that interesting. Sometimes you need to add a little bit of a twist or something like that, where it doesn't sound quite right, but it still sounds sort of nice. So you want to have your music sound in harmony, but also sometimes not in harmony, but not in a way that's really awful to listen to, unless of course that's what you're going for with, I don't know, some sort of horror-esque or random music. So yeah, the last two I'll just talk about quickly. So there's tempo, so there's how fast the music is. So for example, Swan Lake goes very slowly compared to something like Mission Impossible, which is fast-paced and feels like you're on a mission. And dynamics, it's just another fancy word for the volume of instruments. So how loud do you want them to be? Sometimes you maybe want, for example, you want the brass to come in really strong, and you want a quiet flute over there that's really quiet and in the background almost. Anyway, so I think I've mostly got all of the music knowledge stuff out the way, and that might have been a blur. If so, that's fine. You can always look back back at it. These are just things that are helpful to know when you're making music, but you can take the approach of sound effects, where it's just you try something. Just like in the sound effects, I don't really know what half of the effects do, and I can just try them and see if it sounds nice. But obviously, if I have the knowledge, then I can more better predict what kind of things might be better. Anyway, the first thing I'm going to show you is the first music editing software. Well, not really software, it's a website, I guess, that you can use to actually produce music. And the first one is the Chrome Music Lab that we've been using a little bit. So I haven't actually got it up, unfortunately. Whoops. But I can go to Chrome Music Lab, and just for reference, there are lots more things you can explore here, like chords and piano rolls and pentatonics and stuff. But what we're really looking for is this happy face here that we saw earlier, which is a song maker. And while it's just loading up, I'll just explain. So on this grid here is a piano roll. Now, what we mean by a piano roll is if we go back really quickly to the piano, you can see that the piano has sort of spaces in between. And when we're talking about piano roll, we're talking about moving music, music that's progressing in time, but the notes are sideways on. So imagine this piano is moved sideways on, and that's what we mean by a piano roll. So we've got a piano roll here, and if I click something, I get progressively higher and higher notes and pitch. Unfortunately, I don't know how to get them to list the notes here, because I think that would be very useful for a beginner, but we don't have it. You can change stuff like tempo here at the bottom. I'm just going to keep it at 1. I wish I could keep it at 120 if it would let me, but we're going to have to put it at 121 now. There's also a mic where you can sing the notes, I guess. Or I think you just sing one note. Let me try it out. Yeah, sure, I'll allow it. Okay. That's good enough for me. So you could actually sing a tune that you have in your head if you're a decent singer, which I am not, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, there's also the settings here, which gives you the length. So 4 bars is just... actually, I'm not going to go into this because I don't want to overwhelm you guys if you're a complete beginner. But basically, you can change the length of the music. You can change the scale, which is the sort of notes that you can play on. How many beats you want in the bar? Do you want it to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like a waltz or something like that. And then you how many beats you want to split into. So each beat in hour 1 is split into quavers, I believe. So 1/8 of a whole 1/8 of a note, and you can also increase the range. But we're going to leave that now, and I'll stop doing that. There's also an undo and save, and yeah. So the main drawback to the Songmaker is you only have 2 instruments that you can use. So this is what I mean by it's kind of fairly limited, but it's a great way just if you want to get something out. And a lot of people, you can search on YouTube for Songmaker Billie Eilish like parody or something, and you'll find many people who have made really popular songs on Songmaker, and it just sounds pretty funny. But yeah, so the first thing you can do is you can either start making a melody, or you can start doing a beat. I think the easiest way is to start with a beat, because it's much easier to fit a melody to a beat. However, you can of course start with a melody if you want. Actually, right. I'm gonna put it to the crowd. What kind of music do you want to make? I'm probably gonna have to wait a little for the chat, but Baroque. Are you one of my mods put Baroque, and they know specifically that I'm not very much a fan of Baroque music. A symphony. Wow. Yeah, I'm not writing. I'm not gonna write an orchestral symphony. A boss fight. That's not a bad idea. Is there any other ideas? Well, clearly my chat can't be trusted to give good suggestions, especially my moderators, who I will be kicking out of the chat promptly. So yeah, but I like the idea of a boss fight, so let's do that. Oh no, what am I doing? Okay, sorry. Right, we're back. If we're doing a boss fight, I'm wondering, should we just go all electronic or not? I guess let's try blocks with synth, because I think that'll be a weird, interesting combination. On this bottom line here, you have a more beefy. Okay, this is not gonna do. The blocks are not good enough. Let's try electronic. Okay, that's a nice beefy bass, and we have a snare kind of drum. So this is your lower beat, your lower drum, and your higher pitch drum. Okay, so a boss fight. Okay, so let's do. I guess with a boss fight, it's a little bit like, if I'm trying to tell the story of this, it's a little bit ominous. So maybe something with like a beefy bass that's like this. So I can try to play that to see. Yeah. Okay. And I'm just gonna repeat that for the first 2 bars. Okay, so I like this beat because it sounds like we're on a mission. It's like, it's almost like a bit of a heartbeat kind of thing. It's very steady, and there's some sort of urgency here. I'm wondering if I should add any higher pitch sounds here. I guess I can maybe try this. Okay, I'm not sure about that. Maybe on the same beat. I'm not sure exactly. I think something like this, where the first one is on the beat and the second one isn't, might be cool. Yeah, okay, I like that, but if anyone has suggestions in the chat and the mods thinks it's a good idea, then please do say. Huh? Wait, there's someone got ideas? Are my mods telling me I've got ideas? 8-bit cat boss fight. Okay. Right. I'm not sure. What, a cat boss fight? I guess if we're doing cats, we need to do strings. I don't know. They don't sound good though. Okay. Let's stick to synth for now. A cat boss fight. Right. I've got an idea then. Since we're doing a cat boss fight, we're gonna do some sort of hisses with this higher beat line. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this one like this, this, and see how that goes, and just continue this here. So we'll just see how this sounds. Okay, I like this because it sounds like the fight has sort of phases. You know, we're coming in with the fight. It's back and forth. then the boss is winning or whatever, and then the cats come in with like, I don't know, scratches or something at the end. Okay, so I'm happy more or less with the bass line by now. Has anyone else got any ideas? I think the songmaker can use a sample as the instrument. Is that so? I don't know. I haven't heard about that. I don't know how you would be able to do that. Anyway, we'll just continue with the normal sounds. That may be something I look into later. But okay, now we have to just decide what kind of notes we want. So we could do some sort of stepped motion. Yeah, I think that sounds good. So something like this where, yeah, it sounds fine enough for me. We could maybe add some more sort of harmonies in here perhaps. So maybe something like this. Okay. I like it again. It has a kind of feel at the end here, being heavier punches. Again, like there's some sort of fight phase. We're gonna get to the cat stuff here. I still haven't figured that out, but just for the sake of simplicity, what I'm gonna do is repeat some of this. Don't be afraid to do this in your music. It might not lead to the most interesting like things. It won't be anything like a symphony, but in general, something I haven't really talked about with game development music is usually it being a loop is a good idea, because it usually allows people to get into a groove. They feel familiar with everything. Not everything has to be a symphony like in a JRPG, but those songs can also be very good. But especially if you're making arcadey kind of things, loops are totally fine. So we've repeated this sort of thing again, and I'm wondering, should I just have screeches up at the top, just for just for cats? Oh, one thing that doesn't sound very good is it's too early here, so I wanna start afresh. Didn't quite sound right. Okay, it kind of sounds like a screech. Maybe what we can do is something like a chorded kind of thing. So yeah, let's see how this goes. What does Stream think of that? The synth sounds close enough to meows. That's good to know. Is there? We could make this collaborative. Does anyone want to add anything else to this piece of music? Okay, maybe not, unless the stream is too far behind. Anyway, my mods will tell me if something comes up. Wait, what? Oh. Right, okay, sorry. And then if I want to save this, I just click the save button, and I want to download it. Ignore the MIDI unless you know what MIDI is. Ignore embed code and sharing and all this rubbish. Just download the WAV and save it. And I'll just save it on my desktop again and say cat boss fight. And I want to save it as wildly, but so we can see if. Uh-oh, did it work? Where are you? Oh, whoops! It went into my downloads. Oopsie. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. Okay. And we have our music, so nice. Now this was only 7 seconds long because you can't really do that that many long pieces in Chrome Music Lab. So again, it's very limited. But if you just want to crack something, just put something out that sounds fairly decent, then this is where you should go. Oof! I've noticed I'm running a little over time, so I apologize to my mods. However, what I'll do is go through the last parts of my presentation. So the second thing that I used quite a lot was musescore, and I think in this case I'll just show it to you very quickly. Yes, I want to save this real quick. Actually, I'll just leave it for later. So this is more of a sheet music maker, and I think I'll show you it just very quickly in 5 minutes because there's not a lot to learn from this. It's a fairly simple UI, and it's probably the best like free music sheet writer out there. The reason I've used this quite a lot is because I come from a more musical background where I read sheet music, but it can also be a very good area just to see how instruments interact, and it does have a lot of integrated instruments that sometimes might be a bit harder to find than other music production software. However, it's the instrument sounds aren't the best quality either, so take this with a pinch of salt. But for example, I can change the instruments here, and if I change to all instruments, I get a lot of keyboards and electronic stuff. I guess sci-fi synthesizer would be good, and we can just take out the piano because we don't care. So yeah, and I have sheet music here. You can add a bunch of stuff here, like change the time signature and everything else, dynamics, all that jazz. Yeah, and what you can do here is if you press N, you go into note entering mode, and you can just press the letter of the note you want. So like B would give you this, and since we're in the top left here, we're doing crotches. There's some music there. If I want to bring it down an octave, so the same note but lower in pitch, I just hold Control and press down or up, and that's how that works. And you just write music as you go along. So let's say I decide then I want quavers and I want a DE, and then what instruments do I play? I played clarinet for 6 years at school, so mostly concert band stuff, but also some orchestra stuff. That's kind of where I started writing some music, especially sheet music. I actually wrote an arrangement of a Doctor Who piece for my orchestra that we did on tour, and we had a little school music tour in Italy. Anyway, then I've played a little bit of drums, a little bit of piano, but I'm not very good at it. And then I switched a little to tuned percussion for 2 years in a concert band, a high-level concert band called Sturgeon Winds. So I did a lot of xylophone, marimba, glockenspiel, but also cymbals and stuff like this. It's a very stressful job, if I do say so myself. And yes, I also used to play the triangle. I was that guy. I was the guy who had to make sure he was in time and clicked that triangle. I played a lot of Christmas music, which gets boring after a while. But yeah, and congos, and I've also played some of that. And I tried learning snare drum for a bit. I still do play snare drum for a bit, so more rhythmic stuff. Hopefully that answers whoever asked in the chat what instruments I play. Anyway, I'll get back to this. So I'll just quickly write something and then say I want an F. So really simple piece of music, I guess. And you can see at the top here we have playback buttons, so I can go to the back and it sounds like a meow, the synth. So I think I think we're good here. Yeah, and you can do all sorts of things like copying. So some copying is your friend, in my opinion. Yeah. What else can you do? Oh, another really useful thing in musescore is if you click P, you will get a virtual piano, and you'll be able to just try stuff out. So what did we have? We had like a B, D, E, F. So I mean, that's a pretty simple one. We could bring this down to an A. You can bring down notes by individually by intervals, by not holding control. So if you don't want the octave, you can just move them up and down like I'm doing right now. And it sounds like a very angry cat, I'm not gonna lie. So we could just try that for double and see how this sounds. That doesn't sound quite right here. It still doesn't sound right. Maybe it should be going back to the B. Yeah, that sounds a bit better. Let's do that here as well. Okay. And yeah, so you can just do stuff like this. I think for time's sake, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quickly add a bass line, make this much shorter if I remember how to. How do I change the number of bars I want? Usually I need to only add bars. I think I'll do this later, but I'll just do 4 bars for now. I'll zoom in real quick. We'll call it, I guess, if I double click here, I can call it cat menu screen. And I guess I'll put my own name in. Just Matthew Connell. Okay, so now I've done all that. Let's just chord this out. So what am I doing? I'm doing a B, D, E, F. So I guess I could do somewhat of this chord. Let's see. Okay, let's just make this. Go into no entry. I don't want to do. You can just do a backspace to delete stuff, by the way. I want to do this, but how do I? B. I guess I don't want that actually. I think if you do. Okay, sorry. I was just trying to remember what I was doing. There's so many things in these music production software that you have to remember. But if you hold Shift, you can then stack notes on top of each other, making chords or things like that. So I wanted a B. I also wanted an F and an E. So, but maybe I want to bring the A down. Okay. There's something that doesn't sound quite right in there, but I'm willing to accept it for what it is. Let's see. I'm gonna bring out the piano again and figure out what I want to do. Maybe changing it to an A chord or something like a some kind of weird chord here that sounds a lot more spacey, I guess, which is the it's like a sort of suspended force in there. So let's delete this, and what I really want is an A, but I want the long notes. Okay, so let's see how this sounds. Maybe a bit too much dissonance. What if we change the A to the upper? Yeah, and let's just copy this over because I'm lazy today and we should really wrap this up. So this is just the final rendition. It's just over again. It's a very simple loop, and I could expand on it and have little different things in it. But I guess this is I don't think I should call it cat menu screen anymore. I should call it space cats because that sounds cool, right? Space cats. Yeah, Space Cats, exactly. So this is my new song, and I'm gonna save it on the desktop because that's fine. I can save the file, and if I export it, you can just go to File, Export, just like everything else. So here it initially goes to PDF because it's a sheet music software. It's about writing music rather than producing it, but you can just as easily change it to a WAV or a MP3, and it should generate it. It might take a while because usually you get a little screen, and it's taking a while just now because it has too many bars in it. So I'll need to edit this and take away the bars because I can't remember how to do it. But now if we have it here, we have the musescore file, but we have the music file now. And it's much louder than it was in musescore, so I'm gonna stop that right now. So yeah, let's go. Is there any questions about musescore or Chrome Music Lab that people want answered? If so, mods, please tell me if that happens. So I'm just gonna finish up right now. There are lots of other music production software. All of these are pretty much more digital. They're not really like musescore. If you're interested in sheet music, I should have probably put here Sibelius. But Reaper is a very good one, FL Studio. But a lot of these cost money, or in the case of GarageBand, require you to have an Apple device, which costs money. LMMS is a good sort of weird ripoff of FL Studio that's free. And personally right now you can sometimes get Ableton Lite version if you buy a MIDI keyboard or something, so that's currently what I'm using, Ableton Live. But yeah, there's lots of other music production software, and if you're interested I would encourage you to look at these because a lot of these are much more powerful than some of the stuff we've seen, especially Chrome Music Lab. And I haven't really shown you a lot of the side of digital music, but that's because our digital music production software, like professional ones, that's mostly because a lot of these aren't free, and I wanted to show you stuff that you can get started with and start with really quickly for the weekend coming up. But if you're interested, really I encourage you to have a look at all these things. GarageBand is also a really easy one to get into, but again you need to have an Apple device. Finally, I'd also just say here's just a recommendation if you're interested more in analysis of game music. If you want to know some really cool moments in game music, funnily enough, a lot of it comes from Japanese made games, because usually the Japanese game developers use Japanese composers that are really some of them are geniuses, to be honest. But yeah, 8-Bit Music Theory on YouTube is a really popular channel for analyzing game music and looking at what kind of features really make these themes for the games iconic and make them stick in our minds. And yeah, and now I can 100% believe you can make music in sound now. You have my recommendation to every game development company that you can go and make sound, even if it's only in Chrome Music Lab or musescore or Audacity. All you really need to do is just time to explore and just try stuff, just make stuff. Of course you're going to get better over time, but it's just about exploring the sound and the sound, audio and music world, and just making stuff, and that's just how you get better. It's how you find new tools, it's how you find new effects, it's how how you sort of make your own style eventually. And yeah, I believe in all you guys. So yeah, I'm just gonna switch back to me transition. And yeah, I guess the last thing is just taking any questions at all. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions, whether it's just about music in general or game development music? There's a lot of stuff I didn't talk about, so maybe this is your chance to ask if I know anything about certain things in game development music. Yeah. Castronauts. That's a good name. I'll change that later. Thank you, Jake. Castronauts is a great name. I do have a lot of trust in the mods. Okay. I don't see any questions coming in, so I hope the stream isn't too badly delayed that I'm missing these things. But in that case, I'll just quickly say thank you very much for joining. There's going to be 2D art tomorrow and programming on Thursday as well. Maybe you'll see me as a moderator during those times. And yeah, we've got our Game Jam 8 or Game Jam Infinity, depending on how you look at it. Whether you look at the 8 side on or something. We've got it this weekend from Friday to Sunday, so Friday evening to Sunday evening. It should be great. It's our first online game jam, so I really hope it's going to be a good one. And I hope it has the same feeling and enjoyment as previous game jams. And one way you can help make that happen is by joining. It's completely free, and there's going to be some prizes for the winners as well. So yeah, also of course look at just go to our Facebook page and group in our Discord, which you should hopefully find around our YouTube channel description or somewhere, or maybe the moderators will add those links in, and that's where you'll find all the information, as well as a Good Dev Soccer website to find all the information about game jams and events coming up and into the future if you want to get involved. So yeah, other than that, again, thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you learned something. Thank you for all the suggestions and the questions as well. No thank you to the moderators, awful suggestions for music either. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. So for now, I'll see you guys all later.